Hello and welcome to Midweek Makes. My name's Nikola and I'm the founder of Little Miss So-and-so, and this is my sewing studio. So thank you for joining us again. Each week we are bringing to you a different pattern, a different sewing skill. This may be something from dressmaking or maybe a crafty project or even from one of our Fat Quarter Club boxes. This week I'm going to be showing you how to create your very own applique Christmas jumper. This is something that I believe is really easy to do, but really can customise your own sewing or your own jumpers. I'm going to be showing you how to applique a pattern that we sell, and that's the Billy sweatshirt. You can choose any pattern you like, or even an existing sweatshirt that you've got. It really is all about being creative and knowing the applique skill. So I'm going to take you through one of our own designs, and this is something that's going to be available on our website, and it's the first of a few applique designs that we've got for this Christmas. So I'll be showing you on a red sweatshirt, and it's, like I said, following the Tilly and the Buttons Billy sweatshirt pattern because that's my favourite, but you can choose whichever you like. Okay, so I hope you enjoy. Any questions, do comment on the video because I will get back to you. Okay, so enjoy, and hope you I hope you look forward to making your own applique sweatshirt. Okay, for this project you need to first of all cut out your piece of fabric for the front sweater. So I've cut out the front bodice for the Billy, and I have pre-washed my fabric just to prevent any shrinking. You also need the fabric that you're going to be making the applique out of. So I've got this stretchy, shiny gold fabric, and I've decided to do the whole applique in one colour, but of course it's totally up to you how you applique your project. You also need some bondaweb and your applique pieces, your pattern pieces that you're going to draw around, and probably a sharp pencil. So first of all, you need to attach the bondaweb to the back of the applique fabric. If you haven't used bondaweb before, this has got a rough side and a smooth side. The rough side is the glue, so you want to lay this down so that the rough side is against the wrong side of your fabric, and using a pressing cloth and a hot iron, use the heat from an iron to stick this down. And then once you've done that, we are going to trace the applique pattern pieces onto the back. Okay, so once you've done that, we're going to trace our or draw around our pattern pieces. Now, because this is the back of the fabric, we need to flip everything over so that they're back to front. So I'm going to start with the sewing machine. So that is the way round I'd like it. So I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to draw around this piece with a pencil. And if you're not very patient like me, you'll want to rush it, but don't rush it. Take your time and draw around each piece just as it is. Okay. There we go, so that's the first piece. I'm going to do the same for all the letters. So remember, we need to turn them, so that's the way around it should be. So we're going to turn them back to front. And I know this is a mirror image, but I'm just going to do it anyway. I'm going to turn it back to front, just so I know. You could be laughing at me for turning the mirror image ones back to front, but there we go. So I'm just going to draw around these letters. Okay, once you've traced those out, you just need a sharp pair of scissors, and we need to chop them up. We're going to cut them all out. Okay. There we have it. Didn't take too long, did it? So there we go. So we've got all of our letters. We're going to be looking at putting those onto the sweatshirt now. So we'll move on to that section. Okay, so we're going to look at positioning our applique. So I'm going to use Bertha. If you haven't got a Bertha, you can hold your pattern piece against you like this and do the same principle, but I'm going to use Bertha to demonstrate. So we're going to apply that front bodice to the model or to yourself, and I'm just going to make sure I accommodate the seam allowance at the shoulder seam, so I know that's more or less laying where it should do, just to get an idea as to where where the letters need to look once it's applied to the top. So I'm just going to pin this back a little bit just so I can, there we go. So a rough idea as to how that bodice is going to sit on the top. Okay, so really we want our first lot of letters, the let it. So the design is let it sew, which is rather fabulous, I think. So we want to think about where we want the letters to sit. So I'm going to place, I think, round about there. Ooh. Just to get an idea as to how low down it's going to go. So we're going to have the first lot of letters going across the top. And then, so we're going to have, well, it's up to you where you put it, but I'm going to have let it at the top, and then I'm going to have the word sew underneath it. That's going to start from there. Then I'm going to place my sewing machine underneath. So what I'm really looking for at the moment is my start point, and I think that is nicely spaced. So I'm roughly working out my start point at the top, and then once I know how far down it's all going to go. So I think that is where I'm going to start. So I'm just going to grab a pin just to mark out that I want my letters to start just underneath that pin. Okay, and then we're going to now lay them out properly, ready to stick onto our front bodice. Okay, so you may want to do this bit on the ironing board, or if you don't do it on the ironing board and you don't feel like you've got enough space to lay the pieces out, just use a fabric pen or a marking pencil just to put a guide as to where you're going to be laying your letters and your applique pieces out. So I have got here my pin. I'm really pleased I did that exercise of laying it against my lady, Bertha, or do it to yourself, because naturally I think I would have gone to put the letters down here, whereas it just felt more central, whereas actually we know that once against the body it's going to look more effective up here. So I need to lay out my letters, but also I want to make sure they're central. So I am going to use my tape measure, I'm going to try and centralise these two words, because they're going to be the ones that are going to create the shape of my complete applique design. So I want to try and make sure that, let's have a look. I go from side to side, I measure that at 54 centimetres, so 27 centimetres is my halfway point. Ooh. So there is 27 centimetres, so I know that T at the moment is my halfway point. Right, and I want to check that these are, so that's about 16 centimetres from the edge, and that is just a little bit off, 17 centimetres. I'm just going to pull those over a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks about central. Bearing in mind I'm doing this upside down. I'm going to have that eye turned around. Okay, so that is how I'm going to lay out my letters, and I'm just going to get the rest. So there's my S. So obviously I'm going to make sure this is all completely straight once I take it over to the sewing, to the ironing board. But for now, I'm going to mark out my letters and check that they're central. I'm going to check the edge of my W. Roughly about 18 centimetres away. Yep, that's looking quite central. And then the sewing machine. Oh, doesn't that look gorgeous? Okay, so I'm just going to make a couple of marks. I know that that is the top of my L. But if you're doing this on the ironing board, you'll be ready to just move on to the next step. I'm just going to mark out where my W and my S sit, roughly around here. Obviously I'm going to make sure it's all straight, and then my sewing machine goes around about here. Okay, right, once you take this over to your ironing board, you're going to need your pressing cloth so we don't ruin. This will most probably melt underneath an iron, so you will need your pressing cloth. But first of all, before you iron a letter down, you need to take off the paper backing. So I always find it easiest, because I've got fake nails. Fake nails are rubbish, they don't do anything. So I usually just tear it a little bit, and then I can get hold of an edge. And all that's doing is taking the paper away, and it's leaving behind the glue. You're going to do this for each of the applique pieces, okay? So once I would suggest do it by word. So peel off the backing, make sure everything is straight and it's exactly as you'd like the positioning to be. Here we go. So I'm going to do it one word at a time. Get your pressing cloth on top, really important that you use your pressing cloth, and use the steam from the iron, and put your pressing cloth on top, use your iron to press down, and that will stick in place. We're going to do that for the whole of the applique design, okay? So I'm going to go away and do that, and then I'm going to come back here and show you how to stitch on your applique design. Okay, I'm going to blanket stitch my applique letters on, and I'm going to use this stitch because I think it's really nice to have a decorative stitch with applique, but also because of the phrase that we're sewing on, which is let it sew, I think it looks really sort of in keeping with the theme of the applique design. So I've already practiced on a scrap piece of paper. I haven't choked, sorry, I've practiced on a scrap piece of fabric, and I've adjusted my stitch length so that I'm happy with the size of the stitch in general as I go around the letters. So I'm going to start sewing it on now. If you haven't sewn a blanket stitch before, it runs in one straight stitch and then the stitch goes left. So you have to run the straight stitch against the edge of the applique shape. So sometimes it takes a little bit of getting used to. There we go. I'm just going to sew the letter L so I can show you the effect of the blanket stitch. Take it really slowly, especially because we're doing applique on stretch, which again is a little bit trickier than sewing on woven. Can you tell that I'm concentrating as I talk? There we go. I'm just making sure that straight part of the stitch runs along the edge of the letter. And before I turn around to start the next row, I'm just making sure that the stitch itself is completed. Okay, last straight row. Just following the shape of the letter so we don't lose the curve. There we go. So hopefully you can see the effect that the blanket stitch has on the letter. Really pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch the rest of the letters on. finished, really pleased, and it was a really quick make, and I think the applique was worth the time and effort. So I will be selling these packs on the website, so they will be under the All Set to Sew packs if you wanted to purchase them yourself. But if not, I hope this has given you some inspiration of upcycling some sweatshirts to make your own Christmas jumpers this year. And I hope you've enjoyed this week Midweek Makes, and I'll be back next week with a new project. Take care, bye.